What's up, everybody? Welcome to Why Invest Wednesday. I'm so excited for today's guest. I actually have a former student of mine who recently purchased his first home, an incredible 10 to 12 year journey that we've been on. I'm so excited to share it with you through all the ups and downs, through all the challenges. Dominic and Lindsey fought the good fight, and here they are, homeowners, finally, after a long journey. But the funny part is it didn't take very long because they were so prepared and so ready. When I talk to people about the market and, the best time to buy and the best time to sell, and lots of timing the market conversations are going on right now, the honest truth is the best time to purchase a home is when you are ready, when the cards fall into place. And absolutely, this story kind of brings goosebumps to my arms because it was absolutely a long process. We talked years, and they continued building credit. They continued making moves that were best for their family and what they had to do. And they absolutely now enjoy their own home, very close to where Dominic grew up, absolutely. And I'm so excited to have Dominic on the show today. What's up, everybody? Jeremy Kane, Why Invest Wednesday. Please like, comment, subscribe. If you're like this family that we're going to bring on here and you want to make a plan, and maybe it's not today and maybe it's not tomorrow, but you want to own a home and you want to achieve that slice of the American dream, it is absolutely possible. Comment below, message me directly. I would love to have that conversation with you. Without further ado, let's bring Dominic Kirby on to Why Invest Wednesday. All right, today we have Dominic Kirby. So excited to have him on. He's got the kiddos to bed. This is pre-recorded, and he's ready to talk about his journey. Dominic, thanks so much for coming on. How are things at the new house?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. It's good. We keep finding small little things from the last owner, but all manageable, and have done a lot so far and look forward to doing more.
Awesome. The joys of home ownership come through at every stage. Cool. Yeah. So little background, Dominic and his wife, Lindsey, were students of mine back in the day at Tetra Academy. They had a baby at an extremely young age and both graduated high school. And here we sit 12 years later. Well, it's a little bit less than 12 years since they had their first son, but 4 kids, just bought their first home. It's been an incredible journey. So we're going to kind of talk to Dominic about that and just, the inspiration that I have and admire their fight. They're still together. They're still having kids. Well, maybe not anymore, but they have 4 boys and have absolutely fought the good fight. And it was important to them to own a home, and they took steps along the way over the last 12 years. And here we are in their first home. Dominic sitting in the home he bought last month. So first off, Dominic, what was the thing? Why at 20 years old were you like, hey, Jeremy, I want to buy a house. I'm not ready today. But what led you to that mindset?
I think it's a culmination of things. I'm very entrepreneurial, and I believe in assets and equity since a young age, right? And I've held different kinds of equity, but nothing really holds firm like real estate, right? I think most people say that's because it exists. I would have to agree, right? like it's tangible. I can see a house, but also just I think and Lindsey would say this too, is that there's a certain comfort in that you own it. Right. There's no landlord that can change their mind and pull out of it as a rental or what have you. Right. Actually, if a member of my team was like, yeah, I'm done renting my house, I'm just going to sell it. Right. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of comfort. And plus, we can do whatever we want to it, within code and all that jazz. But having that flexibility is really attractive too.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of talk about the journey. I mean, it was probably 4 years ago when, you moved out to Aurora and you made some sacrifices to get a house for your growing family out there, and you rented. And we talked a lot about it. And I just really appreciate like, hey, Jeremy, I want to do this. We want to do this at some point. Today's not the day, but what are the steps? And immediately you talk to, a lender, and kind of started that journey. And what was that journey like from that first conversation to closing day to now pouring a new driveway?
Yeah, it's really complicated. And I think a lot of people probably don't realize that. I didn't.
Right.
I think there's a lot of people to help and you need that team on your side. But I mean, obviously, I've run a few businesses. They didn't all go great. So had some dings on the credit that needed to be taken care of. So, you hooking me up with a lender that could pull it and say, do this, that, and the other, was really powerful. And then you get into that position, and obviously that took time. And then, well, obviously, the Denver market. So
right.
Living in the Denver market, and what sort of you have to come up with and the income you need. I had to build my career to that point. Thankfully, I'm with a great company that's gotten me there, and I'm growing. And then you start hunting for a house, and I've told a few people now, like, that's when the chaos starts.
Yeah.
Right. You're sending 4 or 5 different houses at a time. Lindsey and I are looking at them saying, oh, we like this, don't like that, what have you. And then I remember the story I always tell. We went and looked at one house in Littleton, and then we drove to the next house. It was like Morrison. So like 25 minutes. And you're like, oh, that house went up like 80 grand in the last. I was like, what? And so that realization, it really came to fruition that you have to strategize if you're going to buy, especially in a market like this. I'm sure we're not the only one, but man, right. It's crazy.
Yeah. And that's even better. Like, people talk to me all the time about, when's the right time to buy and timing the market, getting the lowest interest rates, and, when are the prices going to drop and things like that. And the honest truth is, I tell people all the time, and you're a perfect example of this, is the right time is when you're ready. Yeah. So as you guys have heard, Dominic had to build a career. He had to build his credit. Oh yeah. He also had to raise his family, through all of this, and save as much money as he possibly could. So he was ready for that moment. And regardless, when the interest rates were 2.5%, the time wasn't right for the Kirbys to buy a home. And the time was right when the market was hot, right? Everyone's like, oh man, things are crazy. Things are going $100,000 over. And we took a systematic approach. We saw a couple houses. That was a really cool thing for me to walk up and, meet Dominic and Lindsey again. And there's Tanner standing there, who was boy number 1 in the Kirby family that I talked about earlier. And to see like a living, breathing, semi-teenager almost, talk back to me and, say, he was a lot nicer than Lindsey and Dominic back in the classroom. So you learned a few things about kindness and how to raise them right. But it was really cool to show them that first house with Tanner there, and knowing, having him talk about his room and that stuff. So that was really cool. And I'm so excited I was able to be a part of that from literally before he was born to, this piece. And he's so stoked about his new house and that stuff. So that was super cool. So talk a little bit about getting under contract, and obviously the time frame. It was pretty interesting. I text Dominic and Lindsey and I said, hey, this house is coming up. It happens to be really close to your parents. Is it too close? They both said no. And tell me about that day and what that looked like, Dominic.
That was crazy. I think you have to also remember that we're coming out of a pandemic into an endemic while all this is happening, right? Yeah. So I'm tinkering with being in the office again. So I was in the office, and you sent like, hey, this house came down a little bit in price, and it checks a lot of the boxes. So Lindsey went up and looked at it with one of your teammates, and it was under contract before I had seen it. And that was weird. Like I was actually part of my job is I scout for events and look at space and get ready for them. So I was getting a tour of like a hotel event space, signing this thing on my phone. And it's like, hey, you're under contract. And I was like, well, it's supposed to be the one. Right. So I didn't see it until, 2 days later for the inspection, which was kind of wacky. Yeah. But it was really cool, right? It worked out really well. And we're super happy with it. And I'd say once you get under contract, it's going to take a lot of your attention, which is something I study things. I'm like that. So I knew what was about to happen between what you explained and my Google Foo. But
Right.
Just knowing that, like, all right, you got to go to an inspection, you got to do this. Oh, and by the way, the lender needs like 52 different documents that you never thought you need again in your life that you have to go hunt down.
Right. Twice.
Yeah. No, by the way, they're going to be at the signing table. They're going to bring tax returns for you to sign that you filed years ago.
Right.
So there's a lot of that. And I think just bracing yourself and getting it done, I think is important, right? But also just, you got to roll within punches, because it's kind of weird. I think especially with like, our lender was great. I'm not complaining, but it's just the amount of documentation it takes to piece a mortgage together was a lot.
Right. There's some government overlays. Walter Parker did a great job with the AFN for you guys. And that was another piece is, I suggested that Dominic and Lindsey get pre-written, TBD underwritten, they call it. And that was kind of a thing right then to help satisfy the sellers to understand that literally they just needed the house and the appraisal for it all to go down. And so you heard that right. Neither Dominic or I had seen the house. just our trusty scout, Lindsey, and a teammate of mine, Anthony Huber. Shout out to him. I paid him a little bit of money for that, but we were under contract and we were off and running. And then, inspection comes and there's these items and, there's stuff that you can do on your own and not, but it was just kind of a perfect storm. As we progressed, it continued. We got excited that, we're talking about rooms and where the boys are going to be. And Lindsey's talking about paint colors. And that's the fun part. Right. But he did touch on some great points, lots of paperwork, lots of back and forth, lots of uploading docs, which he happens to be a whiz at from a long time ago, before people knew how to upload docs, before you could just click a link and PDF something and make it easy. But that's that. And then, all of a sudden it's move-in day, right? And that's right. You have a huge, all of a sudden you have this asset, right? And now it's all the stuff that you've studied. And I'm super excited to see kind of what you guys make of that place. And Dominic's already talked a little bit about, well, this probably isn't our forever home, but keeping it as a rental is a possibility. And all that stuff takes preparation. And I have no doubt that Dominic and Lindsey, let's not forget our trusty scout, will be those people to make those right decisions. And I just really appreciate that. So yeah, anything that you could tell a buyer. Dominic was a VA buyer, so he didn't have a lot of money down. He didn't have an appraisal gap. We got under contract with no appraisal gap, no real inspection language. What would you tell somebody in your position who maybe has $2,500 in the bank and is like, one day I want to buy a house? What was your, what's your takeaway from your search and that time frame and how to prepare for that?
Yeah. So I've been in sales. So like rejection and something not following through is something I'm very comfortable with. So knowing that we're going to see this house, we're going to like it, and it's going to change $80,000 in price in 20 minutes. It didn't bother me much. I think it would bother some people. So I think you need to brace yourself for that if you're going to shop in a market like this one. And just trust the process, right? And if, when it comes to finances, like, that lender, and again, Walter did a great job for us, but that lender, they know what they're talking about, right? They got licensed and trained for this. So ask them all the questions you need to ask so that you understand like how much cash you're going to need out of pocket to accomplish this, and also understand things like earnest money that, second year under contract, you're going to need to send money to, some title company you never heard of before in your life. So listen to your agent and how all of this works. So try to study that, understand it in advance, and get your questions answered. Because I think for me, knowing a lot of these things in advance, I didn't have to ask questions when I got asked for a tax return, or like, where did this deposit come from? Or like, I knew that was coming. And one example is our state tax return got converted into a check. I hate checks. I don't write them. I don't write, but it happened. So like I studied this and I knew to scan the check and have the letter ready so that when they said, hey, what's this deposit? I'm like, no, that's state tax return. Here you go. So I think it's just little things like that. For me, I'm a fan of buttoning up in advance so that when it's game time, I can just proceed, if you will, and just trust the process. Right. I think it's tough to buy in this market, especially if like us, you weren't maybe as competitive of a buyer as some others. Just trust in the process and know that especially if you're working with Jer and anyone he recommends, you're working with a group of folks who are looking out for you. Right. So you need to just kind of have faith in that process.
Since you were 13, buddy.
Yeah, for a long time.
Yeah. But that's awesome. And I appreciate that. And the thing is, it's possible. And we got under contract with a 0% down loan in this market, hottest market. Everything's going for over, and didn't have an appraisal gap and didn't have to just put everything on the line. And so know that, and it takes some time. And Dominic was actually pretty quick. I think we looked at 10 houses, the one Zillow Gone Wild house with the maroon and pink and stuff like that. But, and he had a plan, and we made it happen. So Dominic, thanks so much for that. You truly are a standard that a lot of people will look up to. And I'm so excited to see the future. Can't wait to have a beer on your newly poured back patio sometime. And I just appreciate the time, man. Congratulations, and tell Lindsey the same. And thank you guys so much for setting the bar high for people getting into home ownership and making it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot, Jer.
Yeah, man. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later.
Thanks for tuning in. What an amazing story. Thanks so much to the Kirby family for sharing that story with us and their journey. And if you have any questions or you want to start that journey, even if you feel like it's 5 or 10 years down the road, I would love to chat with you and help you understand how to make it possible. It's all possible. It's a step-by-step process. We structure it, we make it happen. I don't have to be all up in your business. You can have that conversation with a lender or whatever you may need to do, but it's literally one step at a time. And if you chip away, no matter what, we can get you into homeownership and make it happen. So thanks so much for tuning in. Please like, comment, subscribe, show the Kirbys some love in the comments, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Bye-bye.